Remain standing. Go to Joshua, the first chapter and the 5th verse, and then I'm going to let you sit down. Joshua, the 1st chapter and the 5th verse. Glory to God. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. How many believe the God of the past is the God of the present? And we sing a song, He'll do it again. But I want you to acknowledge here, as I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. So I am the God of the past, I am the God of the present, and I am the God of the future. And I want to say this very simply to you. Whatever you have seen God do in the past, He is well able to do in the present, and He is preparing miracles. There are miracles in motion for your future. Father, anoint every ear to hear, every mind to perceive, and every heart to believe. And I declare it done in Jesus' name. And everybody said, you may be seated. I want to ask you to, on the text side of things, I want to stay in the 1st chapter of Joshua for just a moment. And if you don't catch up with me, that's fine. I want to go to the 1st verse. I want to read the 4 preceding verses. And after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua the son of Nun, saying, Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses my servant is dead. Now therefore arise. Everybody say, arise. Go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give them, even to the children of Israel. Every place the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses. And then he gives geographics from the wilderness and this Lebanon, even unto the great river, the river Euphrates, and all the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea, toward the going down of the sun shall be your coast. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. Everybody say this, as I was. As I was. I want to see by a show of hands, how many of you has God in the past done miraculous things for you? As I was. Those miracles are in the past. But the God that did the miraculous in the past is the God of today. And the God that is creating miracles for your tomorrows. And sometimes we get so bewildered with circumstances that we forget what He has done. That's why you enter into His presence with thanksgiving, because you are activating spiritual thinking. You're activating spiritual memory that will activate faith afresh and anew, because as I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. Understand something here. I know I'm reviewing somewhat, but understand something. Your words from God do not have expiration dates. And even though an entire generation, and Pastor Mike referenced this last week, other than Joshua and Caleb, there wasn't one surviving person in Israel that had been in Egypt, because they rejected in fear the thus saith the Lord. Don't be on the side of saying the God that spoke this in the past, that word from God has expired, because it hasn't. Now, Let's go to the 11th chapter, the 23rd verse. So Joshua took the whole land according to all that the Lord had said to Moses. See this again? This was no new word. This is not that Israel had crossed over and then God gave them a new word. The word for them was get up and get what I told you you could have. So it said that according to all that the Lord had said to Moses, and Joshua gave it as an inheritance to Israel according to their divisions by their tribe. Then the land rested from war. How many like a little rest from war? Well, what we have to understand is what God has promised you, He is going to release to you as an inheritance, and it's going to be given to you supernaturally by the hand of God. But the only person that can develop what God gives you is you. The only person that can develop what God has given you is you. So you see a lot of activity, but let's move on to the 13th chapter in the first verse. Now Joshua was old, advanced in years, and the Lord said to him, you are old and advanced in years. It's such an encouraging word. And there remains very much land yet to be possessed. And there remains very much land to be possessed. Now, I brought this out on Pentecost Sunday. You will never see expansion in your business, in your career, in your spiritual walk, unless you are willing to get connected to the power of God. And so God says this to Joshua in the first chapter, as I was with Moses, so I'm with you. Now he's saying to him, okay, the land is resting from war, but there is much more land. There is an expansion to Israel. There is much more land yet to be possessed. See, taking possession, in other words, saying, this is what God promised me. I believe this is the call of God on my life. I believe this is the word of God to my life. All of this is relevant, powerful, and special. But that's not the end of it. Now you have to take what God has given you and you have to say, all right, God, I have to develop what you have given me. Because if you don't develop what God has given you, it stops there. But if you develop what God has given you, it becomes your legacy. Everybody talks about legacy now. Everybody talks about succession. Everybody talks about multi-generation. I won't say everybody, but a lot of people, multi-generational anointing. But if you do not possess what God has said you can have, not stopping and saying, okay, I got it, God, I believe it, but what do I do to develop it? How do I build on it? How do I take the gifts and the talents that you've given me and the prophetic promises that you have made over my life? What do I do with it? That action spiritually is what is going to secure what God gives you lives past you. This is better than what you think it is. Now, still with me? Okay, don't have a panic attack back on the board. But I'm going to go to Exodus, the 14th chapter. The Lord's just dealing with me about some things this morning. In the 13th verse, here's the synopsis. Israel's been miraculously delivered out of Egypt. The Passover's occurred. They've been released, and now they are at the Red Sea. And as they are standing at the Red Sea, they begin to hear the sound of the chariots of Egypt. And Moses said unto the people, this is the 13th verse of the 14th chapter of Exodus, and Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. Moses just said, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. And God said, don't cry after me. Tell the people of God to move forward. Tell them to go forward. Now Moses is saying, there's a problem here. There's this thing called the Red Sea, and I don't know what to do. Have you ever stood at a place and it's like God saying, go forward, and you're saying, I need to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord? Because you see a barrier in front of you. You see a barrier in front of you that you have no answers to how to move it. So how can I expand? How can I develop? How can I increase? How can I see another level of blessing and breakthrough? How can I see it? I have this Red Sea. I have this mountain. I have this obstacle. And the Lord just simply said, don't come crying to me. Tell the people. Let me see where I can find it. And the Lord's, and Moses is making a true declaration. The Lord's going to fight for you. He's going to work with you on this. But then, and the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak to the children of Israel that they go forward. See, God's word didn't change. The Red Sea didn't change God's word. Now, you're not hearing what I'm saying. I've delivered you from Egypt. I've moved you to the Red Sea. You're telling them to stand still. I'm telling you, I haven't changed my declaration. I told you that you're going to get out of here and you're going to cross over and you're going to go to the land of promise. So tell them to go forward. How? Stay with me. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. But lift up thy rod and stretch forth thine hand over the sea and divide it. Okay, now wait a minute here. You want me, I know you've all heard this story before, but I want you to think about it in 2024. I'm standing here with a huge barrier, a huge mountain, a huge obstacle, and I'm standing here basically have no choice but to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. And the Lord said, quit whining. I haven't changed my word. Go forward. But how do I go forward? No, stay. Come on. How do I go forward with this barrier? And the Lord said, just stretch out the rod. Oh, yeah, well, Steve Nelson, he's an engineer, and Fred Holderness is an engineer. That is the absolute answer when you have a major obstacle to build a bridge over or to tunnel through, is you just take a stick Now, if you're a Star Wars fanatic, you can see how that can work. What did they call those things? Oh, yes, lightsabers. You can tell who all the Star Wars people are out here. Bless the name of Yoda or whatever. So the answer is this. The answer is this. You're here. I want them to move forward. And Moses, God's reading Moses' mind. Yeah, but we got a problem here, God, in case you didn't notice. You know, they tell you when you play golf and you happen to hit the ball over the water, what you have to do is visualize that it's not water, that it's just grass all the way from where you stand to the green. And it does sound good. It does sound good. Did you hear me? It sounds good. But when you look up and you're standing over the ball and you've been taught, okay, I got to focus on where I want that ball to go. But for some reason, that water is still there. It has not gone through a metamorphosis into grass. And your brain is telling you, if you screw this shot up, the ball is going into the water. Now, there's a hole that I play on the golf course in Hawaii, and my wife will ride on the course with me in Hawaii. But there's this one hole, because when I hit the ball, it moves left to right. But the lake is on the right. And I'll hit the ball, and it looks perfect, and it keeps moving, and then it'll hit the green and roll into the water. And she laughs at me. And I don't care how many times I play that hole. I cannot see the ball on the green. I see the ball rolling off the green into the water, and I can hear her laughing. Stay with me. He's looking at the green on the other side of the Red Sea. How am I going to move forward? And God said, just stretch out your hand. You've got a rod in your hand. You threw it down once and it turned into a serpent, and you picked it up and it turned back into a rod. Are you following me? You used that rod against Pharaoh, and every time you raised it, something miraculous began to happen. I haven't run out of miracles, and this is going to be a big one. They're going to make movies about this miracle. There's a guy coming in the future named Cecil B. DeMille, and he is going to do wonders with this miracle. But the thing is, what you've got to do is understand you are not here to stand still because you have an obstacle. You are here to move forward by the miraculous power of God. Some of you get to moving and get to shaking, as they would say. Some of you get all fired up. You get all excited until there's a barrier. And instead of keeping moving, you stop and you say, okay, I'm going to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. And the Lord said, I didn't tell you to stand still. I told you to move forward. I told you to advance. I told you to stretch out as I was with Moses. So what's he saying? If Moses will look into your past, you will see the miracles that happened with the rod in your hand. So why have I all of a sudden run out of enough power? Even though this barrier looks greater, it doesn't really matter. All of them required a miracle. You are, as a people, standing at a point that to get to where God wants you to go, it's going to take a miracle. Say, well, Pastor, it's going to take money. Well, it may take a miracle to get you the money. It's going to take this, it's going to take that. That may be true. But the truth of the matter is, if God doesn't step into the middle of the situation, if he doesn't step into the middle of the situation, you live behind the barrier. You still here? Okay. Now go to Exodus 23. Now I'm back on my notes. Exodus chapter 23, 20. Behold, I send an angel. Now, this is the generation before Joshua's generation. But I want you to realize something. When God speaks something, he doesn't change his mind. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Let me read one more verse. Beware. 23rd verse, please. But if you will indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. Stay with me. Next verse. For my angel will go before you and bring you in to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off, which means I will annihilate them. Now, let's go back to the 21st verse. Beware of him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. See, when God speaks, we are either going to honor what God says or we are going to dishonor what God says. If God says to you, this is my plan for your life, you either going to believe it, receive it, and honor it, or you're going to dishonor it by telling God all about your Red Sea and telling God about all the reasons why this can't happen. But he's saying here, he's not going to pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. What happens? When you begin to dishonor the thus saith the Lord in your life, you have dishonored the one who has said it. Now, I've got my Mr. Rogers sweater on today, just being real user-friendly. When you deny, denounce, reject, dishonor what God has spoken over your life, you have dishonored the one who spoke it. And here God is saying to them, if you listen to what the angel, my messenger that I sent, let's go to the next verse, 22nd verse. But if you indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. How many feel like you've got some enemies and adversaries trying to hold you back from getting where God wants you to go? God said, I will be an enemy. I will be an adversary to them. Next verse. For my angel will go before you and bring you into the Amorite. In other words, he's going to take you right into their neighborhood. He's taking you right into the neighborhood. God knew about these 31 key strongholds, and he knew about the 31 kings, and he knew about the 31 armies. He's just saying, but the angel, my messenger, is going to take you to them. Now, that doesn't sound like we want it. We want God to build a frontage road around them and say, oh, praise the name of the Lord. I was able to bypass the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and whatever other ites we've got to deal with. I've got a frontage road around it. Oh, thank you. No, the Lord said, I'm going to take you right to them, because you never have total victory till you defeat who is your enemy, till you defeat your adversary. This is why back before pandemic, God began to speak to me. And he said, tell your people they're up against 5 distinct spiritual forces. And tell them they need to daily rebuke those spiritual forces. And I began to preach to you way back then. And I said, we have to take authority over the destroyer, authority over the devourer, authority over the spirit of infirmity, authority over the spirit of fear, and authority over the spirit of heaviness. And if you look back through the pandemic journey and after it, every one of us have experienced the violent, ruthless attacks of the destroyer, the violent, ruthless attacks of the devourer, the violent, ruthless attacks of the spirit of infirmity, the violent, ruthless attacks of the spirit of heaviness and the spirit of fear. But the Lord's saying, listen, I am not going to move you around them. I'm going to take you into direct confrontation with them. I am not going to move the Red Sea. I'm going to part the Red Sea. I am not going to move you around the Hittites and the Hivites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Jebusites and the... No. I'm not going to move them out of the way. I'm going to take you face to face, up close and personal. And you know what? I will be an enemy to your enemies, and I will be an adversary to your adversaries, and they don't have what it takes to stop me and you together. Oh, somebody better give God a shout. Next verse, please. 24th verse. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but you shall utterly overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. Oh, that was back in an idolatrous generation. Do you realize how much we have bowed down to the system? Do you realize how much we are bowing down, and how our school systems have bowed down, how our morals have bowed down, how what we ordain and put in the pulpit has bowed down, how denominations have bowed down, how so-called born-again, spirit-filled people have bowed down? We have bowed down to homosexuality. We have bowed down to the transgender agenda. We have bowed down to the immorality of this culture. I know this doesn't make me popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. We have bowed down to the spirit of deception. We bowed down to liars. We've embraced illegal behaviors, and we think, well, we just got to get along. We just got to be inclusive. No, we don't. We do not have to be inclusive. Say, well, people aren't welcome in our church. Yes, they are. Bring them in. Bring the transgender in. Bring the homosexual in. Come on. Bring the liars in. Bring the drug addicts in. Bring the alcoholics in. Well, we just got to put our arms around. No, we don't. No, what you do is say, the power of God can destroy this yoke that is upon your life. I have prayed for so many things you don't even know. At the altars of our church, I prayed for so many strange people with strange behaviors and addictive patterns and immoral lifestyles. And you know what happens when the anointing of God begins to flow? Tears begin to stream down their face. They begin to quake under the power of God. And people keep saying, you got to embrace it. You got to embrace. No, you don't have to embrace. How can you, as a Christian, embrace that which God is diametrically opposed to? This isn't about politics, ladies and gentlemen. This is about the undeniable truth of a living God. I bet you wish I had stayed by the ocean. You shall not bow down to their gods. We are bowing down to things that we have no reason to bow down to. Next verse. So you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and will take sickness away from the midst of you. If we won't bow, we will experience prosperity. We will experience God supplying all of our need, and we will experience health. And it doesn't require, you know what it really requires? That we will not bow down to this. And if we will not bow down, he will take sickness away from the midst of us. I'm believing God for a wave of divine healing to come, because there are people, instead of bowing down to the immoralities of the culture, they are standing strong and say, I don't care if you like me or you don't like me. This is what the word of the Lord has to say. And we stand up, and the next time you go to the doctor says, I don't know what this is, but you don't have diabetes anymore. I don't know what's going on, but your high blood pressure is normal. I don't know what's going on. The last time we checked you, there was evidence there was cancer in your bloodstream, but there's no cancer in your body anymore. Is anybody hearing what I'm saying? Instead of saying, I hope that my business makes it, you find out God's blessing your bread and your water. Why? Because you didn't bow down. Next verse. No one shall suffer miscarriage or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the numbers of your days. We're all going to get old together. Next verse. I will send my fear before you. I will cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. We are getting ready. I want you to hear me. We are getting ready to see a reversal. We're getting ready to receive a reversal. And the aggressive agendas that we are seeing in manifestation, instead of moving and advancing, we will see a retreating. I'll get another verse here. And I will send hornets before you. I just like this verse. I'll send hornets before you, which will drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before you. In other words, I just use whatever I have at my disposal. And I think this would be kind of fun. Let's just fire up some hornets and chase them right out for you. 29th verse. I will not drive them out before you in 1 year. Now, I've gone through all this to get to here. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Next verse. Little by little, say it with me, little by little, I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. What God's saying is we have a tendency to get into a hurry, which does not mean we just stand still. It just means that we take it a step at a time. The steps of the righteous are ordered of the Lord. We always want to be the fastest. We always want to get the most, the quickest. Everybody's always looking, as I would say, to win the lotto. And most of the people that win things like that end up going bankrupt a few years later because they don't know how to manage what they have received. Said, little by little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. What's happening is Israel is going to move in. Now, this is a prophecy in Exodus regarding Joshua's generation, because that generation couldn't receive it. But the word didn't change. So little by little, I will drive them out from before you. It's not just going to be this nuclear vaporization of these people. No, little by little. And each step that you take, you will step in and gain control, and you will move and you will master areas and fields and mines and vineyards. Are you following me? You will take control, but you're going to do it little by little. See, what you have to understand regarding the inheritance that Joshua was releasing, that even though the land rested from war, there was still the residual of these different nations or tribes, however you want to look at them. And so now, stay with me. This will get good. So now, Nick, Jennifer, this is what I am releasing to you. And then you go over and look at what God said is yours, and you will notice that there are some squatters on your inheritance. Now it's up to you, because the deed and the title to that is in your name. And it's not Joe and Jennifer's responsibility to take care of what illegally resides on your blessing. It is Joe and Jennifer's responsibility to take care of what God's given them. And then you get Colonel McGinnis over here with that military mindset, and he said, yeah, well, I can't help you with that because I got this over here to take care of, and I see illegal inhabitants over there. How you doing out here? Lord, when I walked in, nobody was out here. So what's got to happen? What's got to happen for you in the overflow room is you've got to understand, when God gives you an inheritance, it is your responsibility to develop that inheritance and quit looking at your neighbor to develop what God says you can have. No, I don't think you're getting what I'm saying. If God gave it to you, then you have to say, whatever unclean influence is trying to stop the development of my business, my ministry, my family, my career, whatever it is my responsibility to take authority over it and watch God and me together totally possess and develop the blessing. Let's go to Psalms 84:7. They go from strength to strength, little by little. Do you realize every time you win a battle, you're stronger? We just want to go from strength to strength, but we don't want any Red Seas. We don't want any Amorites. We don't want any Hivites. We don't want any contest. We just go, oh, I'm just going to get stronger. No, you're not. What brings strength to strength is victory to victory. It wasn't one king. It wasn't one army. It wasn't one city. It wasn't all over at Jericho. People say, yeah, but Jericho was the strongest fortress in the land. It doesn't matter. It wasn't one victory at Jericho. It wasn't one army defeated at Jericho. It wasn't one king being slain at Jericho. It was 31 different battles that resulted in a rest from war. And because they took control of the land, then God could subdivide the blessing and say, okay, this is all belongs to all of you. This is Israel. But now I'm putting your name on this. This is yours. It's yours to manage. It's yours to develop. You know, some people still like the whole manna mentality. Oh, it must have been so wonderful to get up every morning, open the flap of the tent, and there's the manna. Manna in the morning. Manna in the evening. Manna when the sun goes down. Hey, do we have anything to snack on, Mama? Oh, well, we got some manna. Yeah, well, I've had that for the last 32 years. Anything different? No, well, that's all we got to work with. Staying with me? But they get into the land of promise. What do we have to work with? Oh, I just went out and harvested grapes. Oh, I just got some fresh olives. Oh, man, our harvest of sheep and the flocks are bigger than they've ever been. Are you staying with me? Oh, I got some fresh pomegranates. Just read the 8th chapter of Deuteronomy. I got this and I got that. Well, what do we have to drink? Say, well, I went out and I got refreshing, clear, pure water out of the streams that are flowing. What did it boil down to? All of a sudden, Jennifer and Joe had deed and title over what God said was theirs. And it became Joe and Jennifer's responsibility to harvest it, to develop it. Your calling is not just something to just stand still. Your calling is something to be developed. So they go from strength to strength. Go to Proverbs 4:18. This is out of the Amplified. But the path of the just or the righteous is like the light of dawn that shines brighter and brighter until it reaches its full strength and glory in the perfect day. Now get this terminology. Shines brighter and brighter until it reaches its full strength. Every time you go from strength to strength, every little by little results in a shining brighter and brighter until you reach your full strength. And a lot of times in our culture, everybody's looking for the so-called new and improved. And there's a lot of younger ministries, and thank God for the young lions that are coming on. But we saw a lot during the crisis in the pandemic that the younger ministries went into a panic mode because they never really had to deal with anything. You don't have to say amen. I'm just going to vent for a moment. And the popular term, oh, that's old school. Well, you know something? I kind of feel like the old school had a whole lot more power in it than all this other stuff that we see. Now, the new school is cool. Oh, yeah, it's cool. I mean, There's puffs of smoke, and there's lighting that rivals Broadway. And oh, Lord, the sound. You can't tell whether it came out of Abbey Road in London or it came out of a gospel studio in Nashville. But it's cool. It's cool. And the singers are cool. I mean, their clothes are all ripped up. And they're cool. They didn't comb their hair before they came to church. They're cool, though. And they got moves. They got... Lord, they get so dizzy, I'm surprised they can stand up. Say, are you making... I'm making fun of some stuff because it has style and no substance. It's a lot of noise. So you need to go back on vacation. Maybe I do. But see, I see the ocean coming in, and where sin abounds, grace does much more abound. I don't think you should have to listen so closely to figure out whether it's secular or gospel. If I start singing holy, 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 you don't have a question mark whether it came out of the Country Music Awards or whether it came out of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know that came from heaven and somebody's singing about the holiness of the Lord. There has to be a non-bowing down to the spirit of the system. I'm losing amens every minute. But see, when you fight through enough and you go from strength to strengths, there was something about talking to an Oral Roberts that was different than talking to other people. I was listening to a great man of God as I was driving in today, and I know I get radical and loud, but he was just talking. But there was such an anointing on his talk that he was sharing, because he was talking about breakthroughs and he was talking about miracles. But it wasn't the intensity of his voice, but it was the anointing on his voice. Now, I know this guy, and I know he went from strength to strength because he went from battle to battle and victory to victory. And you know what happens when you get stronger? You get brighter. I'm going to say it again. When you get stronger, you get brighter. And when you get brighter, you create a farther reach of illumination. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17. Now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. See, when the presence of God shows up, there's liberty. No, believe me. Gayla and I talk because, people used to get all excited, and we talked about dancing in the Spirit. I know some of you have never heard that term before. And I don't think there's anything wrong with dancing before the Lord, but there's a moment in time when you shift out of the natural into the spiritual. And it's like God just takes over, and you can't help yourself. Oh, yeah, well, Pastor, that's why we don't invite people to Word of Life, because people get overtaken by the presence of God. Well, where the Spirit is, there's liberty. I have seen people under the power of God so depressed and so oppressed, but yet in a twinkling of an eye, in the snap of a finger, that yoke would break off of them because of the spirit of liberty. God doesn't want you down. He doesn't want you depressed. He doesn't want you discouraged. He doesn't want you confused. He wants you to be free. Next verse. But we all, with unveiled face, behold it as in mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory. Transformed into the same image from glory to glory. God didn't say poof, it's all in one step. No, it's from strength to strength. It's brighter and brighter and brighter, stronger and stronger and stronger, brighter and brighter and brighter, from glory to glory. Now, the word glory comes from the Greek word doxa, which means manifested perfection of his character. It means radiance and splendor, brighter and brighter. Brighter and brighter. People just ought to walk up to you and say, I don't know what it is, there's something different about you. Brighter and brighter. People that you work with should come to you and say, you know, I know you have battles and have trials, but it just seems like you get stronger and stronger. I need somebody to talk to. I need somebody, maybe they ask to pray with me. And that's the key. That the demonstration, the kratos of God, the power of God is so miraculous. He said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw people to you. See, we're trying to reach folks, and God wants us to draw people. We get stronger and stronger. We get brighter and brighter. We get more radiant and more radiant, little by little. But in the process, we take full charge of what God has said is ours. Now, I'm going to read this out of two translations, 2 Samuel 22:37 and 38. You enlarged my path under me, so my feet did not slip. Next verse. I chased my enemies and destroyed them, and I did not stop until they were conquered. I chased my enemies. When was the last time you chased the spirit of infirmity? When was the last time you chased the devourer? Went after him? When was the last time you chased the spirit of fear and waged war against it until power, love, and a sound mind ruled? Let's look at it out of the NLT, 37th verse. You have made a wide path for my feet to keep them from slipping. I chased my enemies and destroyed them. I did not stop until they were conquered. I didn't stop warring until I had the victory. I did not stop warring until I had the victory. You enlarged my steps. Now, go with me to 1 Chronicles, the 4th chapter, the 9th and 10th verse. Most all of you know this, Jabez's prayer. Now, Jabez was more honorable than his brother, and his mother called his name Jabez, saying, because I bore him in pain. Next verse. And Jabez called on the God of Israel. Now, I want you to hear me on this again. Enlargement did not come to Jabez until he called on God. Enlargement did not come to Jabez until he called on God. He had to get connected to the power and the presence of God. And he said, oh, that would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory. I want more. Just say it with me. I want more. Anybody out here mean that? Would any of you like more? More finances? More whatever it might be? You want more. See, the false humility says, oh, that's being greedy. And false humility says, oh, that's not being satisfied. No, it's just basically saying, I believe if God was with me in the past, he'll be with me in the present, and he'll do greater things in the future. It would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. So God granted him what he requested. If there was something wrong with Jabez, then why did God say he's more honorable than his brethren? And when you read this whole chronology in this 1 Chronicles, the 4th chapter, and preceding and proceeding chapters, it's all that boring stuff that we read, and so begat so-and-so, and they begat so-and-so, and it was just giving the lineage and the bloodlines of the nation. But when it got to Jabez, it paused. And out of all these generations that were being listed, it said Jabez was more honorable than his brethren. Now, Jabez refused to let the barrier of being tagged a pain causer to stop him from being what God wanted him to be and possessing what God wanted him to possess. You've got to shed the labels. You've got to get these tags off of you. You know, because there's people that have seen you before you truly got filled with the power of the Holy Ghost. There are people that you maybe had conflict with, and they have tagged you in certain ways. Maybe family members have looked at you and say, you're never going to be a success. You're never going to own your own home. You're never going to truly prosper. Oh, this happened in your life, so now everybody wants to tag you this. And something else happened, now they tag you that. Well, what starts happening? You start bowing down to that tag, and he was tagged as a pain causer. But it said he was more honorable than his brother. And when you study that word out, it meant he was more connected to God than his brethren. He was more connected to the power of God than his brethren. You know, some people look at you as foolish, that you want to be in church, that you want to spend a couple hours in the house of God, that you want to be in the presence of God, that you're in a wild, crazy Holy Ghost church where people dance and people shout and people are slain in the Spirit and so on and so forth. You get into that tagging, but the truth of the matter is he was more honorable. He was more connected to God. He was more anointed than his brother. And he said, would you enlarge my territory? I want you to bless me. Give me more. Give me more responsibility. Give me more to be in charge of. And sometimes we're afraid to ask God for enlargement. We're afraid to ask God for increase. And I'm telling you this morning, some of you are marked for increase. You're marked for expansion. You're marked for promotion. You're marked to receive things that you never dreamed you would ever have. I look out over this audience and I can start pointing out people, and I want you to hear me. This year is going to be a year of enlargement. It's going to be a year of increase. It's going to be a year of more. It's going to be a second half of seeing the manifestations of God come into your careers, your families, your business, your investments. Things that you don't think are worth anything are all of a sudden going to jump in value. Stock that you think is valueless is going to increase. Investments that you've made said, oh, I can't believe I did that. But the Lord's getting ready to put favor on what you put your resources in. People that have fought with you on the workplace, people that have tried to rob you of your promotion in the workplace, the Lord's going to pull their teeth and silence their voice, and promotion is coming from the Lord. You're going to say, wait a minute, I didn't plan on having this much territory. This word is going to hit somebody, and I hear it. There's somebody watching right now. God is saying their territory, your territory, salespeople that are listening to me, they give you territories, and God's getting ready to enlarge your turf. He's getting ready to enlarge your territory, which means your finances are going to increase. Your influence is going to increase. And some of you are saying, why did God shut this door? God shut this door to where you might actually look for another door. Just enlarge my territory. Enlarge my territory. It's almost like, oh, now, Lord, if it be thy will. Why wouldn't it be God's will? Why did God create basketfuls left over when they multiplied the loaves and the fishes? Why did God give the widow woman enough to sustain her, I'll get the word out correctly, sustain her through all the days of the famine? Why did God do all that? Because he's not the God of just enough. He is the God of more than enough. He wants you to get stronger so you can manage more. He wants you to get brighter so you can influence more people. He wants you to have a radiance to where people are drawn to you. He wants things to happen to where we will be looked at as a delightsome people in a delightsome land. And all this stuff, we're getting ready to see the enemy turn his back and run. I'm telling you, I prophesied to you months ago, maybe even years ago, that God said, I will expose the witch, and I will expose the witchcraft, and I will expose the demonic influences that have been manipulating the direction of the nation. And I want you to hear me again. You are getting ready to see the cover pulled off of some things, and people are going to try to hide things. And as hard as they try to hide it, the brighter the spotlight is going to get on it. And people are going to say, oh, well, no, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. The church is the salt of the United States of America. The Republicans are not the salt. The Democrats are not the salt. The Libertarians are not the salt. The Independents are not the salt. Quit attaching your future to a person. Attach your future to the power and the presence of God. God has a way of raising things up and bringing things down. People are scared to death that certain people will get reelected or certain people will get, I guess, on both sides reelected, but they're scared on both sides. Oh, if this one gets reelected, there's going to be riots in the street. If this one gets reelected, God only knows what's going to happen. But the truth of the matter is, God is getting ready to reestablish the church as the salt of the earth. We are the preservation of this nation. Quit acting like you have a persecution complex. We are who God says we are. We are the light of the world. We are the salt of the earth. We are kings and we are priests unto God and unto his Father. And whatever the reasons are politically that people embrace Israel, we better believe one thing. If we embrace Israel, God will honor our nation. If we embrace that which is antichrist, God will not honor it. But I got a feeling way down deep inside of me, something is getting ready to happen. Something miraculous is getting ready to happen. Something unexpected is getting ready to happen. Quit looking for it in the way you've been looking for it. God is going to bring some things out of the shadows into the light, and we're going to get brighter and brighter and stronger and stronger and more radiant, and little by little, little by little, little by little, we going to take it back. Little by little, we going to take back the Senate. Little by little, we're going to take back the Congress. Little by little, the demonic, immoral legislations are going to be put under the feet of the righteous. Ladies and gentlemen, this nation is New Testament Israel, and God is with us. God is for us, and the victory is ours, and the battle is the Lord's. Somebody better help me today. You are who God says you are. You're a chosen generation. You're a royal priesthood. You're a holy nation. A holy nation. A holy nation. A nation within a nation. There's a church within this global system called the church, but there is a church within that church system that is a glorious church, and we go get stronger, and we go get brighter, and we go get more radiant, and we're going to get more powerful, and all of this user-friendly, inclusive doctrine, it's going to be a line drawn down, and the Lord said, this is the true church, and this is the harlot church. Y'all are wondering what on earth. I told you all I needed was the ocean for a few days. Man, I'm feeling good in my spirit. I've been listening to all sorts of stuff, and everybody's in an uproar and everybody's upset. And I'm just sitting back thinking, the Lord is enthroned on the flood. We're just going to get stronger. See, if we're glorious, we're radiant. If we're glorious, we're strong. If we're glorious, we're brighter. But remember, harlots will go to bed with anybody. And the harlot church will embrace anybody and anything. And they're doing it. They're sleeping with every form of immorality you can imagine. But the glorious church is getting stronger. The glorious church is getting brighter. The glorious church is getting more radiant. Excuse me, I may be old school, but I'm stronger than I've ever been. I may be old school, and I don't have all the new steps down, but I'm brighter than I've ever been. I'm more radiant than I've ever been. And when the battle starts, you don't need style. You need substance. But believe one thing. There's a sword in your hand and in mine. There's a shield in your hand and in mine. There's a helmet of salvation. Our hearts are covered with righteousness. Our tongues are girded with truth. Our feet are shod with the battle boots of peace. And you just better get ready. There's a war going on, but we're going to see the victory. Greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And if God be for us, no power could stand against us. We don't need political voices. We need some Pattons, and we need some Eisenhowers, and we need some generals that'll stand up and will say, this is what the word of the Lord says. We've got to get back to the Bible. We've got to get back to it. And if you can embrace anything that you know directly conflicts the word, you need to search your soul. You really do. Pastor, no, just hear me. God hasn't kept me this long to get weaker. And we are getting ready to see the best days of Word of Life that we have ever seen.
Thank you for joining our service today. In order to rewatch this service and not miss future services, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Are you looking for more information on Word of Life Christian Center? Visit us at wolcc.net, Facebook or Instagram. If your life was impacted by today's service and would like to support the work of the ministry here at Word of Life, you can give by simply going to wolcc.net and pressing the Give tab. You can also give on our Church Center app. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.